Welcome to Streaming with Two Dudes, a podcast about all things streaming. Each episode, we break down some of the best series, shows, songs, and and series. Why do I always do this? I'm always messing up on this part. Series, series. Yeah, you got it. I'm one dude Parker,
I guess I'm another dude, Jeff.
and dudes. This week we are talking about the remake of The Jungle Book. But Jeff, first, is there anything else you've been streaming this week?
There is. And it's only one thing. And it was Matilda the musical again on Netflix.
Yeah, I did watch it again. I have watched it. I have watched it again, and I've listened to the soundtrack a couple of times, actually, especially my favorite songs.
Same here. And I know we talked about it some, but I decided to get my wife to watch it. And she was intrigued, especially when she heard about our podcast and that you gave it a perfect score and I gave it a near perfect score. I even told her, I said, I could probably safely say it's probably in my top 10 list of all time. She was like, really? And but yeah, I don't know, she's weird. She didn't have the same feelings as we did. But I don't know. But that's what we watched. I enjoyed it. And I picked up on it's like I now want to watch it at least a third time.
Yeah.
Because I definitely picked up on a couple things in the second go around that because a movie like that, you're never gonna get everything on the first go through. You're just soaking everything
it's pretty
in.
dense. Yeah, it's pretty dense.
So there was a couple of small things I picked up on. I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. And then it's like my mind just starts. I don't know if yours ever does this, but I'm thinking it just feels like there's so much that they're communicating that it's like on another level, and I'm sitting there thinking, is Matilda, I don't know. I don't even know how to put it into words. It's just, is like Matilda like living out Miss Honey's life in a way.
Yeah.
Because like Matilda was the bravery and courage that Miss Honey never had.
Yeah.
But she brought it out of Miss Honey. And, because even when she's first going through the story, with her dad, Matilda's the child.
Yeah.
In place of Miss Honey, which is what, Jenny, I think. So to me, that they're so. I mean, your mind can just go crazy thinking about all the symbolism and themes in it that I definitely want to watch a third time just to see if I can just get my brain to wrap around a lot of the stuff. And I'm sure there'll be a ton of other just small details I would pick up on.
Right. I mean, like there was like one thing that I was kind of wondering, and it's something that you were kind of going along the lines of, is like I've always thought of Matilda being the powerful one, but like in some ways I'm wondering if like Matilda was just like a conduit for like Jenny, because it was her story that was going through Matilda, like, you know what I'm saying, and she was basically the one like doing the things that Jenny needed done. It was like that was where her powers came into play. You know what I'm saying? Like she didn't really use them. I don't remember her using them on like her parents. You know what I'm saying? Like she just played tricks on them, like normal tricks like a kid could do. Yeah. She didn't use her. She just used her powers against Trunchbull. You know what I'm saying? So she only used them for the good of like Miss Honey, and basically like, and when Miss Honey was around. So it's like, is she some kind of like, I mean, you saw her used in scenes, like when she was by herself, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It definitely is like, I'm probably just, like I said, I'm probably just bullshitting, but like, it is fun. Like it's a lot more going on than just your simple average normal
and
family musical, for sure.
And there was even in a brief moment that I wondered if Miss Honey's dad maybe had that power to an extent. Because when he drove off, you had that bucket.
Oh, right.
That dented in a weird way, but he didn't hit it or run over it.
Right.
And then the little bucket in Matilda's room ended up doing the same thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, did he have that power initially?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. It's just your brain can go a million different directions with a movie
Yeah,
like
and I mean
that.
that's what I'm saying. That's what I mean, like with like the whole like conduit thing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like is it somehow like Miss Honey's power or like it's just like and then there's just somehow like Matilda has the ability to like channel it. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know. Because she has like the bravery, you know what I'm saying? I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have no idea. But anyways, yeah, dude, I've also been watching that, but I've also been watching actually this is kind of crazy because it was actually this Christmas special that I heard about through like another podcast, and they were talking about it's Adult Swim does this thing where they do like Christmas specials, you know, and this year they did this one called Yule Log, and uh and I'm not gonna get like too into it, but it starts out like, you know, like your normal like fireplace, you know, like burning with like the Christmas music and everything. And then stuff starts to happen. You can hear stuff going on around in the background. And then a movie starts to unfold. And it's I'm not gonna give away too much of it, but I will say it's gonna it's gonna be more of like the horror genre than it is like the Christmas genre. So I'm not gonna say like I recommend it as a Christmas movie, but it definitely starts out as one. So um that's all I'm really gonna say about it. But that's what I have been streaming other than Matilda because I've actually had a pretty busy week this week. So that's pretty much the only other thing I really got into.
I hear you. Yeah, I mean, there's so much other stuff I've been wanting to watch, and got on my list, but yeah, it just hadn't worked out yet. I'm hoping maybe I'll get some more time over the next couple of months, be able to really start watching some stuff I've been wanting to.
All right, good deal. So Jeff, the Jungle Book, man. I'm sure there's plenty of tidbits, even though, you know, this is a newer one. I'm sure you could tell me plenty of this on this one, man.
Yeah, there's actually a load of information out there on this one, especially with being a remake of a an older classic. I'll kind of just start with maybe some of the cast. Um, how do you pronounce the main characters? Mowgli, Mogul,
Mowgli. Mowgli.
Mowgli. Neil Sethi was the kid that was casted as him, and casting was actually extremely extensive for this role. I mean,
It had
literally
to be.
thousands of children from multiple countries auditioned, and I mean, he was basically an unknown, a newcomer. Um, Interesting enough, if you're a fan of the show Office,
Yep.
which maybe I'm the one that made this connection, but they said Neil underwent loads of parkour training for this role, and I guess I just immediately thought of The Office and though parkour, parkour. Anyway, but interesting enough, I have found very little on him since he did the Jungle Book. So
Yeah.
you would think with a role like that, and as well as the film did, that it would have catapulted maybe. Um, and it doesn't seem like that's been the case. Now maybe that's been by choice. Because at that age, I mean, some kids don't want to jump, big time, and they want to do school and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know if that's the case with him, but obviously a ton of other casts. I mean, you had Bill Murray, Ben Kingsley, Idris Elba, Scarlett Johansson, Christopher Walken, Gary Shandling. I mean, the list goes on and on.
Yeah.
Director, producer, John, maybe you can help me with
Favreau.
this.
Yeah, Favreau.
Favreau.
Yeah.
Obviously, I mean, he's extremely well known. Um, Interesting thing about Gary Shandling, this was his last film role. Uh,
Really?
yeah, because he passed away.
Yeah. I didn't realize it was his
Um,
last one though.
yep, it was his last film role. So obviously there was a dedication involving him. Idris Elba had a major Disney year that year.
Yeah.
He was in 3 Disney movies in 2016, obviously with Jungle Book. He also did Zootopia and Finding Dory, that came out in 2016. Of course, fans of the MCU franchise, you get a heavy dose. Ben Kingsley, Idris Elba, Scarlett Johansson, Jon Favreau, and Lupita Nyong'o. I'm sure I butchered that, but yeah, as I mentioned earlier, the film did really well. It was actually they considered it a sleeper. They were not expecting it to do as well as it did, but it actually briefly held the record for the biggest remake of all time. Any ideas on who took that title shortly after they
The
held
Lion
it?
King. Was it the Lion
Actually,
King? Oh
it
no, the
was
Beauty and the Beast. Beauty and the Beast, probably.
Beauty
Yeah.
and the Beast surpassed it the following year.
Yeah.
But no, it ended up grossing 364 million in the US and Canada, 966 million worldwide, and it had an opening US opening weekend of 103 million. So it did really well. Matter of fact, because it did so well, quickly afterwards, they signed on for a sequel.
Mhm.
But it's, like a lot of stuff, it just kind of gets kind of pushed to the side. As of 2022, it's still greenlit, but it's just considered still in development. So no word on when the sequel is going to come out, but
Yeah.
could be in a couple of years. Now just some interesting tidbits, and these are going to kind of be all over the place, not in any particular order. But one of the treasures in King Louis's temple is the genie's lamp from Aladdin.
Oh, cool.
1992 film. The CGI character Baloo is so large and furry, he took almost 5 hours of rendering time per frame.
Jeez.
I bet that was fun. Neil Sethi, who played Mowgli, since he never really worked with real animals on set, the director Jon Favreau would on occasionally stand in for where the animals would be present, just kind of help him with that whole process.
That's hilarious. I can
Uh,
actually just picture Jon Favreau doing that.
Yeah. So of course, Bill Murray voiced Baloo in this movie. His older brother, Brian Doyle Murray, actually voiced Baloo in the 1998 film The Jungle Book Mowgli Story. So I thought that was interesting. I forgot Bill Murray even had a brother, but I remembered when I had read that. Um, all the locations in the movie are computer generated visual effects. Even though it's set in India and it's beautiful as all out, it was all shot at a Los Angeles Center Studios. Um, let's see here. The animal characters, you'll probably like this since you're a fan of the Muppets. The animal characters were motion captured and performed live on set by puppeteers from the Jim Henson Company.
Oh, cool.
For the on-set performances, Jim Henson's Creature Shop built elaborate life-size puppets to act alongside Mowgli and serve as eye lines. This is also the first time that Kaa, the snake, is portrayed by a female.
Yeah.
Probably Jon Favreau's excuse to get Scarlett Johansson in the movie. He actually said it was deliberate, as he felt there were way too many male characters in the original Jungle Book from 1967.
Yeah.
So he was looking for ways to incorporate more female characters. You may have picked up on this. The Jungle Book storybook seen in the closing credits is the original book seen in the Jungle Book 1967's opening credits. It was brought out at the request of director Jon Favreau to close the movie, which bookends the 67 movie. As he explained, at the end of the movie, we found the book from the original Disney archives. And so that book that opens at the beginning of the Jungle Book, I noticed never closes at the end of the Jungle Book. So here we get the same book, the same blue velvet background, and we close the book as kind of to say, pay
Yeah.
homage to, and maybe feel like that they're completing that chapter of it.
Yeah.
All three of Jon Favreau's children have voice roles in the movie. His son Max voiced a wolf cub, while his two daughters were another part of the wolf club. Actually, one of his daughters voiced Gray,
Okay.
which was a pretty major character.
Yeah, that was like the main wolf cub.
Yeah, as far they were cute little things too. Oh my gosh,
They really were. They really were.
So I don't even know how to pronounce this, but in this film, King Louis is what kind of animal? A
Ah,
Gigantopithecus.
yeah, I think that's pretty close because I heard him say it when he said it because like he said it. But yeah, you're close to that. Yeah, it's something like that.
Whereas in previous version he was portrayed as an orangutan.
Hmm.
Actually, this version was actually more accurate because the orangutan isn't really a species found, or it's not native to India.
Uh-huh.
So the fact that they use that animal I just mentioned was actually more accurate as far as
That's cool.
where the story takes place. Um, I don't know if you picked up on this. I kind of did. The scene where Louis first shows his hand to Mowgli is a homage to Peter Jackson's 2005 movie King Kong, where Kong does the pretty much the exact same thing upon meeting Ann Darrow.
Oh, that's cool.
So
I didn't pick.
when I saw that scene, I was like, that looks almost exactly like Kong in that similar scene.
Oh, that's cool.
A couple more things, and I'll shoot it off to you. But so Mowgli finds the cowbell in the monkey palace, picks it
Yeah.
up and shakes it, which causes Louis to appear. Of course, Louis is played by the the classic Christopher Walken, um, who once famously stated on Saturday Night Live in 2000, "I have a fever, and the only prescription is more cowbell." So I don't know if John Favreau used that
Oh,
intentionally
you know he did.
because
You
they
know that was. You know that was.
way too much coincidence if it
Yeah,
wasn't intentional.
that had to be. That's definitely some kind of Easter egg for sure. Like it has to be.
And another thing I picked up on, which I did read, where um, John Favreau, one of the movies that he used as a strong inspiration for his take on this was The Lion King.
Yeah.
And when all the animals gather, excuse me, for the climatic confrontation with, is it Shere Khan,
Shere Khan.
Shere Khan,
Shere Khan. Yeah.
you see a wild boar and an Indian mongoose right next to each other,
Oh,
which is kind of a homage to Pumbaa and
Timon and Pumbaa.
Timon,
Yeah.
which, man, I love the Lion King, love
Yeah.
it, love it. Um, Mowgli also has a scar on the right side of his chest, which almost appears to be the letter R, and a K-shaped scar on his left shoulder, thinking it to be a nod to the original author of this story, Rudyard Kipling.
Yeah. That's cool.
Uh,
I didn't catch those scars somehow, but that is cool.
I only did because I did my research before I watched it the first time. So, but there's, and that's why there is some debate whether it was intentional,
Uh-huh.
because there's other scenes where it doesn't necessarily look like an R or a K.
Yeah.
It almost just like a slash or a curve, but sometimes people just like to look into things that maybe aren't there. Um, I mentioned Ka, the snake, earlier.
Yeah.
First time portrayed as by a female. Also, in the original book, Ka is not a villain by any means. Actually, in Ka ends up saving Mowgli's life twice and was considered a mentor and friend in the original book.
Really?
So I guess in all the film versions and adaptations, isn't being portrayed more as a villain. So that's all I got.
All right. Well, let's see how much of this I can remember. I actually think, I mean, this one actually, I feel pretty confident, even though I actually haven't seen this one very many times. This probably was like the third time I've seen this film. So, like, I haven't watched this one as much as I watched the cartoon, which I watched the cartoon tons growing up.
Oh yeah, I
I'm
was.
sure you did too.
Yeah, I mean, I remember. Yeah, the original was definitely, and it seems like I remember my mom loving that one a lot too, because
mhm.
she absolutely loved the Bare Necessity song.
Yeah.
It seemed like that was her favorite Disney song of all time. But it was actually my first time watching the 2006 films. I was pretty excited and curious to watch this. I did watch the Lion King, I guess, remake that they did kind of in a similar fashion,
Yeah.
because Lion King is probably on my top 10 list.
Oh yeah, I
As far
love
as,
the original.
yeah, as far as the original. So I was curious to see how well they did this one. I thought Lion King the remake was pretty good. Of course, couldn't touch the original, but most time they can't. But it was still pretty good.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's see. how much I because actually I'm before I do cover this one, I'm gonna be honest. I I had to watch this one in two different parts just because of how things are going. So the first half might actually be shakier this time than the second half, which usually doesn't happen. But we'll
Well,
see.
lucky for you, I might not be able to grade you very well either because I had to do the same thing. Matter of fact, my first go around was probably broke up into three parts.
Okay. But see, you
So
also had the you also, I mean, well, I guess I've seen it more times, but previously. But you've watched it twice, you said, or just once?
it's weird because the first time I watched it, um, I, I I think I kind of phased, zoned out, maybe even was struggling to stay awake in a couple of parts. But I pretty much saw it, but I wanted to go back and I didn't fully rewatch it the second time, but I definitely went back and rewatched certain parts. So a time and a half, we'll say.
All right. All right. So I only watched it the one time and it was, it was split up. So like I said, but also luckily I have you doing the same thing. So all right. So we start off with, from what I remember, the way it started off is we got Mowgli running through the jungle. Um, we don't really know what he's being chased by, but it's coming, coming for him. We just see movement, and then we see he is being chased by a Black Panther, gets pounced on, and we find out that it's no threat. It's just Bagheera. He's pretty much doing like his little training session with Mowgli. Um, we find out that Mowgli is this man cub that lives in the jungle. He is being cared for by a wolf pack that has taken him in, and they pretty much have done a great job of raising them as their own, or as his, yeah, as their own. So,
So
um,
those opening minutes, um, of course, anytime I go into a movie like this, I'm curious visually,
yeah,
graphically, what it's going to be like. Anytime you have like pretty much just one human actor, and then everything else is like CGI. But man, this movie is just stunning. And you're like hit in the face just in those first few minutes, just how visually, graphically, it's just on point. It's just I was just mesmerized, especially those first few minutes.
yeah.
So excellent way to start the movie, just to kind of draw you in and just kind of let you see how stunning visually this movie was going to be. So yeah, I love the way it began there.
Yeah, and I mean, it lets you know, like, right off the bat, like, this is not the Disney cartoon, you know what I mean? Like, we're not gonna be just like, Mowgli just strolling around in the jungle, like, this is gonna be like, this isn't your Pappy's, this ain't your Pappy's Jungle Book, you know?
Yeah.
So, he's living this life, and then, we find out that, there's a drought going on, and there's this thing called the Peace Rock in the watering hole, and then whenever it's exposed, that means that water is scarce enough that there's a truce among everybody. So when everybody comes to the watering hole, nobody is allowed to during because water is more important than feeding. No one is allowed to attack anybody else during the peace when the rock is exposed. So um, Shere Khan comes to get some water. He is this tiger, and he does not like people. He pretty much says like, "Hey, when the peace rock is no longer exposed, I'm coming to kill Mowgli, and I'm gonna kill anybody that's trying to stop me." So, everybody knowing this, they decide to send Mowgli, back to the man village, which is the safest for everybody, including Mowgli. So, um, so Bagheera, the panther, takes him, and they go on their way because it has started raining. So, therefore, the drought is no longer. going on. The water's rushing in, and that means Shere Khan is on his way. So we are on a
So
quest. Oh, go
so
ahead.
Shere Khan, did he give you any strong vibes of another Disney character?
Oh, for sure. He definitely felt very Scarish.
Yeah,
100%.
exactly.
Yeah. And actually, he felt more like Scar in this one than Scar did in the remake of
Mm.
The Lion King. You know what I mean? Um, so, Shere Khan is pretty much like coming after him. Mowgli, and he's not happy about this, but he's got to do what he's got to do. He's real respectful of his elders. He's very by the book for the most part when it comes to like doing his little tricks. He's a little bit of a mischievous child, but that's the man cub in him. So they're on their way. That's when Shere Khan comes to look for him at the wolf, back at the pack with the wolves, and he finds out that, he's no longer there. He's going back to the man cub village. And so Shere Khan decides that he knows a way to bring Mowgli back. And so he kills Akela, the leader of Wolf Pack, basically, Mowgli's father figure, kills him because he knows that Mowgli will come back for revenge. So,
How'd you feel
bec-
about that scene?
dude, that was intense, man. So watch. I knew what happened this time, but it's still emotional. There's a couple of beats in it, and I actually skipped over it. One beat that was real, um, that got to me was when he. I can't think of the mom's name. The mother wolf. Whenever they're pretty much deciding to send Mowgli on his way, back to the man cub village, and when she tells him like "you're mine to me," like that line right there choked me up hard. So I didn't, I was like, oh, that got me. And then that scene right there, when Shere Khan, took him out, like
Yeah, I don't know if they were like
because
really.
it just shocked me. I wasn't ready for it, and even knowing it, knowing that he did it for some reason, like I'd forgotten it when I was watching it, and I was just caught up in the scene, and it got me again. So yeah,
It's funny you said it shocked you because I was just getting ready to say it's like I don't know if they were just really focusing on going for the shock factor because it happened so quick. I mean, there was no fight, there was no battle. It literally took 2 seconds. He grabs them and flings them off the mountain, and you're just like,
yeah,
"What? Wait, what?"
yeah,
um, and it's been forever since I've seen the original, so I had, I didn't remember anything from the original movie other than the bare necessities, and
yeah.
I'm kind of shaking their butt, but yeah, it happened so quick, and it's like you're just trying to like process what just happened. You're like,
Yeah,
what? But
I
yeah,
definitely don't remember that happening in the 1960 version. I think once he left the wolves, because like you said, it's been a while since I've watched the original one. Um, so I think once he left the wolf pack, like I don't remember them seeing the wolves anymore. But because I'm pretty sure like Bagheera was just pretty much the one on the journey, like taking him on the journey from that point on. But yeah, that was so intense, man. And then um I believe that is the moment that we also and then we see Shere Khan, uh I believe it's this time where he's like sitting with like the wolf pups and everything, and pretty much just like telling them stories and just intimidating the wolves, and just kind of being an asshole. And then we cut back to Mowgli and Bagheera. They are walking, and then all of a sudden they hear something, and it is Shere Khan. He has tracked them down, and he starts to attack. And Bagheera, him and Bagheera are fighting. So Mowgli takes off running, and him and Bagheera or Shere Khan and Bagheera fight. Bagheera, gets overtaken by Shere Khan. Shere Khan takes off after him, but Mowgli escapes and eventually falls into Kaa's trap, where he finds out from Kaa that who is, slowly hypnotizing him this whole time, um, finds out from Kaa that where he comes from, finds out what happened to his father and, you know, what Shere Khan's part in all of this plays. So, um, after he tells him the story, we realize that Shere Khan or that Kaa has been slowly, um, constricting our boy Mowgli here, and that's when Baloo comes and saves Mowgli, and he pretty much makes a deal with Mowgli and tells him like, "Hey, I saved your life, so you gotta go get these honeycombs for me." So Mowgli, using his tricks, figures out a way to climb these cliffs and get the honeycombs for Baloo, and, Baloo's like he's pretty much like, "Hey, a deal's a deal, I'm done. I gotta get back on my way." Baloo's like, "Hey, you wanna stay in the jungle? I have use for you, so why don't you stay, use your tricks here, and, you can be who you wanna be, and we can do our thing." And so this goes on for a little while until Bagheera finally finds where Mowgli's been and tells Mowgli that he has to take him to back to the man village, and Mowgli is against this. So, he's up in a tree pouting about it because Baloo pretty much, tells him that he doesn't want him there just so that because Baloo, Bagheera actually convinces Baloo that, it's a bad idea for him to stay because Shere Khan's after him. And Baloo doesn't want a part of that. And he doesn't want, to see Mowgli hurt either. So, Mowgli's up in the tree, upset over Baloo telling him that, and some monkeys steal him and take him to King Louie's, and that's where, we get this mobster version of King Louie, which was great. And,
That scene you were talking about earlier, where Baloo pretty much had to lie
mhm,
and tell Mowgli he didn't want him around anymore, and that he was just using them.
yeah.
That was tough to watch because I mean you knew Baloo didn't mean it, but of course
Oh, yeah.
Mowgli didn't know that. But he knew he had to be convincing in order to get Mowgli to agree to move on.
Yeah, like, scenes like that are always tough, like, like, when someone's, like, being mean because they love somebody so much,
Yeah,
like, that's always, like, a tough,
yeah,
tough scene.
you've seen that play out in a lot of movies.
Yeah. I mean, as long as it's done in that way, like, well earned, it always hits hard. Um, so King's Louis basically like, "Hey, you're a man, if the one way to make everything fear you is, from the red flower, which is fire, and you're man, so man controls it. I want you to teach me." And, Mowgli's like, "Hey, I don't know anything about that. I've lived in the jungle my whole life, dude." So Bagheera and Baloo come to Mowgli's rescue. Uh, King Louie's chasing Mowgli through his little, uh, I don't know what you would call that, the monument thing that I don't know why I'm blanking on the word, like a mausoleum type deal that
Let's say old ruins or
yeah,
something.
like some kind of like, like yeah. Anyways, winds up like collapsing on him because he's such a big, whatever kind of ape he was. Um, that it winds up collapsing on him. Mowgli escapes um and he is safe, and Bagheera and Bagheera and Baloo, that's I think this is the part where Mowgli no, I skipped it, that was before King Louie, was where Mowgli saved the
Oh yeah.
his elephant calf out of the pit, and, um, Baloo and Bagheera, saw that, how nice, and that was a really nice scene too. Um, and so then, they they they're there and they're safe. So um oh, King Glue, I forgot. King Louis um spills the beans on Akela dying, and so Mowgli is upset that that's where I was like, something happened, and why is Mowgli upset at this point? So Mowgli finds out that Akela has died, and that Bagheera and Baloo both knew, and nobody told him. So he gets angry and decides to take things into his own hands, and goes to the man village, grabs some fire, runs through the jungle looking for Shere Khan, and finds him. And that's when Shere Khan's like, they're not scared of me anymore. They're scared of you. Look what you've done. Oh, excuse me. Mowgli turns around, sees that he has caught the jungle on fire, and he puts the fire out, and he's like, I'm just going to take you on, you know, as who I am. And that's when all of the animals in the jungle decide that they're tired of Shere Khan too, and they stand up for Mowgli. Mowgli takes off and fights him like a man, and comes up with this plan, and winds up, into the fire in the jungle, winds up, getting the best of Shere Khan. Shere Khan falls to his death. Mowgli is alive and safe. Everybody's happy, and the elephants, in return for his, good deeds, they divert the river into the jungle, put out the fire, and everything is safe, everybody's happy. Mowgli gets to stay in the jungle because he has they everybody decides that that's where he belongs, and the end.
Bravo,
How'd I do?
bravo.
How'd I do? I feel like I
I,
did.
that's a solid A for
Thanks,
sure.
man. I feel like I did. I feel like I crushed that one actually. So yeah,
Yeah, that was very
thanks, man.
solid.
Thanks.
I found it interesting that early in the movie, when Bagheera is with Mowgli, he kind of gets on him for not being enough wolf-like.
Yeah.
And in the little training and games they do, that he kind of goes off and does things differently, and instead of doing exactly what the wolves are doing. But then there towards the end, it's Bagheera that says, you know, don't fight him like a wolf, fight him like a man.
Yeah.
So even Bagheera learned a lot, throughout the
Yeah.
course of the movie, that it's not about Mowgli being a full wolf. It's about learning everything you learn from the spirit of the wolves, but
Mhm.
combining that with the abilities you have as a man,
Yeah.
and bringing that all together to see what you can accomplish.
Yeah,
So
he had a Danny LaRusso moment, over there.
exactly.
That's honestly what I thought about. I was like, man, I was like, Cobra Kai is just integrated into my brain, because I was like, he's having a Danny LaRusso moment right now where he's like, sometimes it's good to learn things the other way sometimes.
That's
So, yeah.
right. Sometimes need some
Yeah.
eagle fang and some,
All right. So Jeff, out of pawpaws, how many pawpaws do you give this movie, and what did you think about it?
out of what is it? Out of how many what?
Pawpaws.
Pawpaws.
Yeah, that was what the fruit was that King Louis made him eat.
Oh,
Remember the pawpaws? Because that's the sound that they make when they hit the jungle floor. Pawpaw.
gotcha. For some reason, I must have missed that or something, but it was a papaya, right?
I think so. I think that's what
Okay.
it was. But
And when you
yeah,
said
the
pawpaw,
pawpaw.
I'm like, that's what they call granddads here in my hick area of the world.
I know what a pawpaw is.
but uh, so I mean, I enjoyed the movie. I really did. It's one of those I wasn't sure what to think going in, because like it's been so long. I do remember liking the original so much as a kid, but I mean I haven't watched the original in numerous years, and of course you just never know with remakes if it's going to kind of recapture the magic, or if it just is awesome in its own way, or does it just kind of like ruin the original for you a little bit. But overall, I'm gonna say it didn't do any of the negative stuff. I think it's a very solid 3.5. Um,
Okay.
Good movie. I would recommend it. Like I said, just visually, it's stunning. It's just a beautiful movie to watch, and you see a lot of very strong like Lion King themes, which
Mhm.
we both mentioned huge fans of that movie. So I mean, I really was able to appreciate that. There's so many little things, even with um, Shere Khan, kind of being like Scar. Even Mowgli has a lot of Simba, um, I
Mm.
guess, similarities, and then like even the scene where he's trying to escape from Shere Khan, and he kind of falls down, and you got all the I don't know what animal it was, but all the animals in a stampede, which I immediately thought of, the scene from The Lion King with Simba and Mufasa.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it just movie was very well done. Um, what did you think of Neil Sethi's performance, who played Mowgli?
So I was actually gonna talk about that. So you've already rated it. You've rated it, so you gave it 3.5 and you talked about it. So I'll go into what I thought about it because
Sure.
actually that's gonna be a part of what I'm gonna talk about whenever because uh, this movie, in my opinion, like no matter who's voice acting in this movie, if you don't have a solid kid actor, you're not going to this movie's gonna fall apart. You know what I'm saying? And in my opinion, like he held it. You know what I'm saying? Like he was the thing that made this film do so well. You know, the kid was not only not only did I buy even just like his movements, like I know some of it's probably not real, but like he was well acted for his age. Like man, just the level of like acting that these kids are doing these days, like I really hope that like Hollywood's treating them a lot better than the kids that they did during our era
Yeah.
because these kids are like so great at their for the most part like they're doing well, and whether or not he decides to do anything else, like I don't know, but for this, like he did great, man. Like I thought he was a great Mowgli. Like he for what he was acting against, especially, like, it's to know that he was just looking at, like, puppets or, even Jon Favreau, you know what I mean? And so, like, knowing all of that, like, it's just the kid did great. Um, yeah, I thought he did great. Uh, and on top of that, like, I thought the voice actors did well, um, they were all solid performances, like, and it's one of those things, like, this is one of the few Disney remakes that they've done that actually was good, you know? The Beauty and the Beast, like, that one is like, "Eh," that one's it is what it is, like, it's pretty much like a shot for shot remake, there's really nothing there, it's okay, but it's nothing special. The Lion King, I hate it, like and I don't care for that at all, it was like the exact opposite of this where, like, the animals are just not expressive. It just doesn't feel like there's a reason for it to exist other than, "Hey, look what we can do." But with this, like, they added so much to it that, like, there's so much more meat on this bone than there is compared to, like, the 1960 version. So, I mean, I'm with you, dude. I'm actually gonna, give this one 3 just because, like, it I don't know, there was some things that, like, I don't know, it kind of just didn't move right, but I mean, I don't know. I do enjoy it. There's a reason for it to exist. It's definitely actually, you know what? I'm gonna go up to you. You know what? Because I didn't wanna just repeat what you said, but it's actually better than a 3, so I'm gonna go with you. Like, it's a 3.5, for sure. Like, it's it's definitely way better than an average film, and it's more than just a half a point better than an average film. Um, because this isn't just a remake. Like, there's more to this remake than just doing it. while also paying like homage to like the 1960s. You know what I mean? Like there's enough similarities to where you're like, okay, this is a remake, but it's kind of its own thing at the same time. Um, I liked it. You know, I really like the way that they do like the mobster. You know, like they do like the mob version of the monkeys instead of it being like um, you know, a scat man type situation. Like I enjoyed that. I like all of that. So I don't know. Yeah, 3.5. So I don't know. What did you think about like the kids acting? Because I thought he did great.
Yeah, for some reason, I thought he was solid, but I won't say I was wowed by him. Um, and that probably has more to do with the fact that we just got done watching Matilda, and we've seen tons of great performances by kid actors. Uh, so maybe it was just the timing of when we watched this one.
Yeah.
Um, but like you said, his situation was a little bit different, and maybe you know, I just wasn't giving him enough credit, since he is acting pretty much with puppets, and he's not feeding off of human actors and actors. But for some reason, to me, it just came across as okay, and I actually wondered if how did the industry feel about his performance? Because I did find it odd that I haven't really seen anything from him since
Right.
then. Because it's been 6 years ago. Um, and again, maybe it's personal choice. I couldn't really find, but I didn't spend several hours looking, but I don't know if there's any interviews or if you dig in the web deep enough, maybe you find some comments from them that, hey, I just want to focus on school and stuff before I return, back to, acting and whatnot. And I didn't really read a lot of reviews about what people thought about his performance, but I'd wondered if maybe others kind of thought like I did. They just thought it was okay. And maybe if that had anything to do with it not catapulting his career, because, usually a role like that, especially as well as the movie did, that's generally going to bring a lot of business, a kid actor's way.
Right.
But
I don't
again,
know. Like, I mean, well, the thing is, like, I mean, like, yeah, like he's not doing, the same levels as what was her name? What's her name? I forgot what her
Ali-
name was.
Alicia
Alicia?
Weir,
Alicia? Yeah,
yeah,
Alicia Weir. Like, I mean, yeah, she's not doing Alicia Weir level acting, but Alicia Weir was also acting with other people,
yeah,
whereas this kid was acting against, he was supposed to be pretending that he's acting with a, you know, Black Panther, with a bear. Like he's got to pretend that he's running from a tiger, you know. So I mean, like with that in consideration, it's like, yeah, he did a great job. So I'm not gonna complain about it too much. So yeah. So that gives us a 3.5. That's still not bad.
nope, definitely a great start to the year.
Yeah, I mean we have two solid remakes, so maybe that's a good sign for our year ahead of us. Um, who is your dude or dud of the week this week?
Man, that's a good one. I've kind of wrestled with this one. Um, out the way. Um, wow, I'm gonna go with Raksha,
Okay.
his wolf mom.
Yeah.
I just really, you mentioned the quote that was from her
Hmm.
that was very touching, but just the emotion, the energy, she kind of even takes charge there towards the end, because was Akila considered her husband?
I think that was like her, yeah, like her mate or whatever. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, she just, major girl power, just kind of because I would imagine in wolf culture that's not the norm. Normally, another male would step into that role. So I thought it was really cool that she kind of stepped up and kind of became the leader. So major props to her, the performance. Um, I love everything about the character. So I'm going to make Raksha my dude of the week.
That's a solid choice. That is
I
a
appreciate
solid
that.
choice. Um, I am gonna go with probably a pretty obvious one. I'm gonna go with another dude. It's been a while. I need to come up with a dude. I need to start hating on some more people. But I'm gonna go.
I was actually just thinking, it's like, man, we hadn't had very many duds here lately. We've been on a dude streak.
We have been. I mean, it's good to have more dudes. Like we're gonna keep the year positive so far. So I'm gonna stay with a dude right now. Um, but I'm gonna go with Baloo. He's I don't know. He's Bill Murray did a great job. It's with the original Baloo. You kind of have that voice in your head, and so you're just it's one of that's one of the roles that would be hard to beat when you're thinking of the Jungle Book. You know what I'm saying? Like Baloo is like the Jungle Book when you're thinking of the 1960s version. So Bill Murray did a great job, and the his character in this one was just a lot deeper, and more meaningful. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna give it to Baloo.
All right.
So
I'm about to say something very nasty.
okay,
If I were to have picked a dud, it would have been Baloo for me.
really?
As beloved as the character is, and a lot of good things about his character in this movie, but to me, there was a huge part where Baloo is just lazy. He's just looking for ways to make his life easier. And he was all about Mowgli helping him, make his life better and easier and
Yeah.
kind of so that part of me is kind of like, dude, come on, Baloo.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel like
He redeemed himself,
yeah, I
but
feel like that's how he started out, but he actually got feelings for him. You know what I mean? Like that was, and I can see that. Like if I thought he was more selfish, but when he has that turnaround, like that was, he has definitely like a redemption, and he has, he had a full arc, as a character. So, it's always nice when they do that with side characters when they get to
and
have their own little arcs and as well as the main character. So
and he did scale that entire mountain, so that was pretty impressive.
yeah, he overcame his fear to go save his homeboy. So yeah, solid dude in my book. Um, so next week we honestly tried to find something that wasn't a family movie because that's what our two previous picks had been, but we really honestly could not find for the streaming original. We couldn't come up with one that wasn't. So for I think we agreed on Rescue Rangers. Is that cool with you? Or is that what we're gonna do this
Yeah,
next week? All
we
right.
can go with that.
All right. So for next week we will be watching Disney Plus's original, it's more of a reboot than a remake, of the um 1990s animated show Rescue Rangers. So yeah, if you haven't watch that and check us out next week with that. Jeff, what you got? What you got? What kind of crazy, weird slash controversial question you got for me?
So I'm kind of going in a different direction this week,
Okay.
just because Matilda has consumed my thoughts over the last week.
Okay.
But give me your top three songs from the movie slash soundtrack, and you can pull up the list on your phone, so you can kind of get a good feel for how to rank them. But I want to hear your top three.
I mean, obviously, my first song is gonna be Quiet. That one's my favorite. Um, then I think my second favorite might have to be School Song.
Okay.
because that one is just really fun. I really enjoy listening to that one, and it's also my favorite one to watch, um, when it comes to, like, the movie, because I always enjoy watching the letters pop up when they're singing it, like, that just triggers something in my brain that just makes all the little happy parts in my brain go off. Um, and the 3rd one, that's honestly, like, it's a close tie between, like, Revolting Children and Naughty, because I like both of those songs, about the same. So I'm gonna have to, but I think Naughty's gonna have to squeeze it out just a little bit because that one's just, I don't know, that one's more in the spirit of the movie, and, like, I don't know, Revolting Children's fun, and but it's a lot more fun to watch. So if we're going, like, to the songs, I would probably like the song "Naughty" is more fun to listen to, but "Revolting Children," like, the choreography in that one is just like,
Oh yeah.
that one would probably be, like, my 2nd favorite, if we're talking about, like, just pure
Yeah, that
choreography.
one's definitely heavy on the performance side.
Mhm. Yeah,
But
that one, yeah. What about you? What would be your top 3?
so actually our lists are pretty different.
Good.
Obviously we have similar feelings on the movie and soundtrack in general, but actually my number one is Naughty.
Okay.
I mean, I listen to that song all the time now since we've watched the movie. Just the message behind it. Alicia Weir's accent is so perfectly portrayed on a lot of the lines in that song, and it's used a few more times throughout the movie, kind of in conjunction with another song. And my favorite part that it's used is when Miss Honey is leaving the school grounds, and
Mhm.
she actually, hold on, that's wrong. That goes to my number 2 song, which is When I Grow Up. Is my second favorite, and that's the part where Miss Honey sings a line as she's leaving the school grounds and talks
Yeah.
about when I grow up, and that's when you start to see that correlation with, you know, Matilda is living out the courage and the bravery that she has wanted for all these years.
Yeah, actually, dude, actually, I completely forgot about When I Grow Up because I was looking at the list. When I Grow Up is absolutely my number 3 then. It's gotta squeeze out the other, like, Naughty then, because When I Grow Up, yeah, for sure, for sure. It's definitely my number 3. Sorry, go on.
Oh, you're good. So my number 3 is gonna be tough too because um, I feel like I'm pretty solid on Naughty and When I Grow Up, but then after that, I'm kind of like you as far as Revolting Children. Just by itself as a song, it probably wouldn't crack my top 3, but like you said, it is one of the most fun to watch just because of everything going on and the dancing and that kind of stuff. But as far as just pure song, I mean, I really like School Song. Um, to me, it's between School Song and I really love Bruce.
Bruce is a fun one. I like, it's definitely one that I don't skip, but
But
and
then,
actually, I catch myself, like, humming that one. Like,
yeah. But I mean, I did like Quiet and Still Holding My Hand. But I'm gonna say Bruce edges out on the third spot for me. But it's also one of those deals where, next week my top three might change. But yeah, it's a great soundtrack. There's definitely 5 or 6 songs on there I could listen to over and over and over.
yeah, man, it's a good soundtrack, and yeah, there's definitely, like, it's not, they're not bad songs, but as far as, like, just songs that I wanna listen to regularly, there's probably about 5 or 6 good songs on there that I do enjoy, like, I'm like, "Okay, this is just a fun song to actually listen to. So
And
um,
and that they could totally do a sequel.
there's room for it. I mean, I don't know if I would support it.
Yeah, I
But
mean, it would be tough. I mean, of course, I would get over the moon excited for it, but like, there's definitely like, did Miss Honey like legally get guardianship over Matilda? Does her parents come back and start creating conflict there because technically they're still the legal guardians and um
I think they could. I think you can get some abandonment. I think you can claim abandonment there. Probably get legal guardianship over her for sure. I don't think you'd be very hard pressed, especially. Yeah, I don't think it'd be too much.
but so do you have any what is your history, your connection with Rescue Rangers?
I mean, I was born in '87, and so I don't know. I can't remember exactly what year they started, but I definitely grew up watching Rescue Rangers, like Chip and Dale, Rescue Rangers. So I mean, I was totally into that show growing up. It's not really something that I've revisited, as an adult. I I've learned that some like, like fond childhood cartoons, especially like during like around that era, some of those just didn't really hold up for me. So I try not to really revisit those too much. Just because I don't want them ruined for me. But so I can't really, you know, I don't really remember too many of the episodes, but I remember fondly as a kid, enjoying them. I was a big fan. And then, finding out like what this reboot or was about, uh, I was excited to watch it and knowing, who was involved. It's John Mulaney and who is the other person besides John Mulaney that does the acting for Chip and Dale? Andy Samberg. Like, when I found out that they're doing the voices for Chip and Dale, I'm, like, all in because I'm a big fan of both of those, and I knew that this was not gonna be, like, a corny reboot, so I was excited for it, and, we'll get into, like, how I felt about it, next week, but I'm I'm a big fan of the Rescue Rangers. What about you? Do you have any that might have been a little bit past your date, but I don't know. Sometimes you like watching kid shows when you're
Yeah, I
when you're a
mean,
little older. So this might be like in your frame.
I'm curious how I'll like this one because yeah, I don't have any like nostalgia or connection to it whatsoever. I guess I'm a little bit older than you, so by the time this came out, I was already of the age where I wasn't really watching those kind of shows. I mean, of course, I was familiar with it, but I was never, I wouldn't consider myself that I was ever a fan of it. Um, Interesting though, I'm looking at information from the original show, and season one was 13 episodes, and then season two was 47 episodes. And then season three was 5 episodes.
Sounds about right.
I don't think I've ever seen a show that's bounced around as much like that. So that is very odd. But yeah, maybe hey, sometimes this is my best movie experiences is when I kind of go in with very low expectations and so that maybe I'll be pleasantly surprised.
Well,
But
yeah, I
now that
think
you
it's
mentioned
possible.
who's voicing, I am more intrigued. I did not realize they were the ones voicing the reboot or remake.
Yeah, we'll consider this one's a reboot, because it's definitely not a remake. I'm
Wow,
not gonna
Seth,
s I'm not gonna spoil it too much, but I mean, like, it's definitely a more of, like, yeah, definitely more in the reboot area than a remake area, so
so it's got Will Arnett, Seth
mhm,
Rogen.
yeah.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, I think you'll at least it might not be your favorite of the month, but I think you'll at least enjoy this. I don't think you'll be too displeased. But
Surely I'll
you
like
know,
it more than Ernest. So
oh, I'm sure. Like, I mean, Ernest is pretty much bottom of the barrel, sadly. But I, I can't. I'm gonna wind up making. I gotta find an Ernest movie to make you like it. Like, I'm gonna find an Ernest movie to make you like. That's gonna be my goal. After now that we've gotten you to like horror films again, I'm gonna get you into finding a horror, finding an Ernest movie that you like. Jeff, you got anything else before we get out of here, man?
I know it's been a great start to the month. So
Yeah.
anxious
Great
to
start
see
to the
where.
year.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
I mean, both. Either way is right.
All months are years, but not all years are months. But that doesn't work either. No, I'm anxious to see where the rest of the month takes us, and yeah, so we'll see how the Rescue Rangers go. How about you?
Yeah, man. Just thank you, and thanks to all of our listeners for sticking with us. If you are curious about our socials, they are down in the show notes. If you want to support us, you can always recommend us to a friend, family, share us. You can always like us, support us by giving 5 stars and leaving a review. It can be pretty much anything. You can just talk about, whatever you want. Just give us 5 stars and leave something, because that really does help us out and moves us up the chart. So the dudes will appreciate that. And our Patreon is also in the show notes. So if you feel like, donating to us, there's that. We're actually going to start putting more in there. I know I keep saying that, but that is one of my New Year's resolutions, is getting the Patreon going so that we can actually have more stuff for you guys out there. Other than that, thanks again. And remember, sometimes all you need is the bare necessities.